Welcome to the very first episode of Paranormally Correct. I'm your host Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about analyzing photographic and video evidence of the paranormal. Hopefully in this video I'm going to be able to teach you how to analyze your own potential pieces of evidence so that if you ever see anything unexplained in a photo or a video, you'll be able to quickly decide if it's authentic or maybe just an accident. We're going to be looking at some videos and photos. Some of these videos and photos are mine and some are just from around the web, some that I think they're really good examples. And yes, I do have some ghost pictures. But before we get started, go ahead and follow me on all of my social media so that you can keep up with all the things I'm doing and all the videos I'm posting. And I would love to hear from you guys if you want to give me some suggestions for videos. If there's anything you want me to cover, connect with me and let me know what you think. Our first topic is actually the easiest topic, and that's light anomalies and artifacts. You may have heard of these before. They come in a variety of different kinds. These are the most common paranormal photos that we see. There are a lot of reasons why these things can happen. Reasons ranging from too much light coming into your camera, not enough light coming into your camera. You could have optical interference or diffraction, or you could actually just have camera damage. Let's go ahead and look at some other types of light anomaly examples. This first picture I think is really funny, and you probably have no idea why I think this is a funny picture, because for all intents and purposes it looks like a paranormal picture. But it's actually not paranormal, it is a strand of hair. Now, I did not take this picture. A friend of mine took this picture for a paranormal conference. Her name is Pam. And she is also a photographer. She's a really good photographer. But this is just a strand of hair. And this is kind of a good way to demonstrate something we're going to talk about a little later in the video, which is orbs. But we won't get to that right now. The next picture I think is really interesting. And I don't know if you can see it, so we're just going to zoom in real quick. Okay, that should be good. This picture, as you can see, hopefully you can see that, there is a beam of light streaming across these two people's face. Now, this is a picture that I took, actually. I took it several years ago. I actually took it on my Sony night shot camera. This picture, although it does look a little creepy and eerie, it's actually no more than a long exposure picture. And again, we're going to talk about that more in depth later in the video. But this picture kind of surprised me, actually. Just when I first looked through my viewfinder just to see the review on my camera to see what I had shot, I was like, whoa, what is that? But then I looked a little closer and I realized that the peephole in the door, the door of the apartment, had smeared because the photo was a long exposure photo. By accident, it wasn't intentional. So basically, if that makes any sense, it was just light coming from the hallway of the apartment, bleeding through the peephole in the apartment door. This next photo may seem harmless and completely void of any paranormal or suspicious activity. If you look at the very end of the hallway, there is a little orb of light, or a little ball of something. So this picture, of course, if you are into orbs and you believe that orbs are paranormal, you would probably think that there is something significant about this picture, but there's not. So what actually happened in this picture is that I was relying on natural light from the hallway. I was on a tripod when I shot the photo, but I shot it with no flash. So when I shot the picture in a low light environment, a little monitor or maybe like a little security keypad or something like that at the end of the hallway with a flashing light on it actually ended up flashing throughout the exposure of the picture. And what that caused was basically the camera saw that and didn't focus on it. Of course, the camera was focused more so on that front wall there, but it caught it kind of in its peripheral view. It performed a soft focus. It made a little boo-boo there. So this is actually more like a glitch than, I don't know, an anomaly. Just for a second, my camera went a little bit stupid. This last photo is going to be our segue into the next topic, which is pixelation, but I just want to point out that there are a couple of things weird about this picture. First of all, it's blurry. You can see that it's blurry. If you know much about cameras, you probably see that I was shooting not on a tripod, just handheld with a slower exposure, no flash, and you'll see a couple things weird about this picture outside of the blurriness. So at the top left, you kind of see like a little purple blob of pixels there. But I just want to point that out because I'm not entirely sure what caused that. I'm assuming that there were probably light refractions throughout the room, just because in a couple of places the floor was a little shiny and there was a lot of kind of auditorium lighting. So I'm assuming that that's what that is. The next thing that I want to point out about this picture is actually something that I haven't been able to decide on what I believe about this picture. I'm just going to zoom in real quick and see if you notice anything odd about it. So if you see what I see, you probably see a distortion of the pixels, and you probably see something that looks a little bit like a human figure, or maybe a kid. I don't really know what to make of this picture. This is one that has baffled me for years. I'm not going to say that it's paranormal because I actually think that it's really just a trick of the light, and being that the photo was kind of a low resolution, I don't really think it's too much to get excited about, but it's definitely interesting enough to check out. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this picture, and let's move on to the next topic, which is pixelation. One of the greatest things about pixelation, and we don't see a whole lot of pixelation anymore with the advancement of camera technology. A lot of newer cameras produce amazingly smooth pictures, but if you are lucky enough to be looking at a piece of unexplained evidence that is pixelated, there are some very telltale signs that will let you know if maybe there's been Photoshop processes performed on the picture to enhance it or change it or maybe create a ghostly figure. One thing that oddly enough I've seen quite a bit of when people would maybe email or send pictures that they had questions about to my paranormal group's page. Cloning. If you don't know what cloning is, if you're not really into Photoshop, cloning is basically a technique where you can sample part of an image or another image or whatever basically and overlay that image with just some brush strokes onto a different part of the picture. Another good thing to look for is pixel interruption. Pixel interruption happens when, let's say that one particular object or the object in question in a photo has been manipulated, maybe laid in on top of the picture in Photoshop from another picture, or maybe just completely generated all together. This image is going to have a different resolution than the overall image, so you'll be able to compare the overall image in general to the object in question, and you'll see a big difference in the quality and the resolution. Hopefully we are recording. I've got so many programs, really heavy programs open right now. I'm not sure how this is going to go. And I am, yes, using an older version of Photoshop because I hate the new one. I refuse to use it. I do have it. I just don't like to use it unless I'm importing raw images from my Canon. Okay, so what we're going to do is talk about some of the things here. I'm going to show you examples of the things that I talk about in the video, which will be basic pixelation, manipulation through Photoshop and how to spot it. We're going to talk about cloning, we're going to talk about pixel interruption and consistency, and within some of these are subcategories like color, lighting, and dead pixels, because these are all things that kind of happen together and are related. So let's just go ahead and get started here. I have a picture of myself, and this picture is actually very, very poorly extracted from the original image. And the reason that I'm going to use it this way is to show you probably a little bit more of what can go wrong and when you're doing this kind of photo. And the thing about it is a lot of people who will take the time to try to hoax a picture are not necessarily the kind of people who are great at Photoshop. So this picture didn't have to be taken out of the original image smoothly. It's very messy, and I think that's going to help you see some of the problems that happen when you're trying to hoax a ghost picture. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this picture of me, and I'm going to select it, copy it. I'm going to take it over to this picture. This is a stock image I got off the internet of a graveyard. I think this picture will work really well because we have a stark contrast in the quality of the picture. My picture, their picture, and this picture has a lot of fog in it. Whether this is CGI fog or naturally occurring fog, I have no idea. But I think this is going to make a really great example here to where you can really see what it is that I'm talking about. Also, you'll see right now, the reason that I'm gigantic in this picture is because the resolution on my photo is extremely high compared to the resolution on this photo. So we're talking about probably, you know, several hundred pixels different, if you know what that means, if you're much into Photoshop. So let's go ahead and size down Godzilla here. And I'm going to just place myself somewhere in the picture. We're going to try to make a ghastly, ghoulish picture out of my image. So I'm going to guess that the first thing I would probably do if I was making a ghost picture, I would probably mess with the levels of lighting and color. I would probably also initially change the exposure, because we want to try to match this to the grain and quality of the graveyard, but it's not going to be easy. And a lot of the times when you see people hoax pictures, like I said, they're not always great with Photoshop. So this is one of the telltale signs, is basically the difference in color, light, grain. As you can see, there is a huge contrast between the quality of my image and the quality of the graveyard. But let's just try to make it look, you know, like it fits in. So let's fix the brightness here and kind of take down the contrast a little bit. So we're going to desaturate it a little bit too. I'm going to take out the saturation. So now we're getting a little bit closer, right? Okay, that looks a little bit better, but we still have a lot of warm tones. As you can see, there are warm tones to my skin that are not present in this original image. Again, that's another telltale sign. So what we're going to do is just try to cool this image off by dragging the hue bar until we kind of find the right tone. And just for the sake of emulating bad Photoshop, I'm not going to make it perfect. And if I wanted to, I could really make this match this image, but I don't want to make it look too good, because I don't think that ghost pictures in general, hoax ghost pictures, they don't look great. Now, one thing I want to do is change the blend mode. So I'm going to go through some blend modes here. This is already starting to look like most of the ghost hoax pictures that we see on the internet. Of course, it's still not done, but it's getting there, I think. So let's mess with the exposure. Okay. So what we basically want to do here is kind of take out some of the detail, so that this image looks a little bit like a misty, powdery, I don't know, I guess apparition, and take away some of the more realistic details so that it, you know, like lipstick or my makeup or my cat print belt, I want to kind of take away some of those features so that it looks a little more generic. So we're just going to go over here to the dodge tool. And I'm going to show you some cloning techniques and stuff here in just a second once we get this under control. If this were me making a hoax ghost picture, one of the things I might do is put on a little layer here so that I can work with this picture non-destructively. And it's basically like erasing, except that I can restore any mistakes that I make. So one of the things I might do here is I might just go in on that layer and remove my boots, because I don't think ghosts wear boots a lot. So let's place this ghost, let's place it over here. Oh, let's put it right here. And we want to make it look like the ghost is peeping out from behind a gravestone. Alright, I think we got a pretty good looking ghost here. So if you just saw this picture passed around on Facebook or maybe floating around on the internet. You'd be like, wow, look, there's a perfect ghost there. So what did it take? Just a few minutes that it took us to put together even just a sloppy job. And now if you invested hours making ghost photos, you could really make them look good, but we're not going for perfection here. We're just going for demonstration. As far as pixel interruption and inconsistency, this is something that can be hard to explain based on the picture that you're looking at. But just a quick, simple gist of what I'm talking about when I say, you know, what I call inconsistency or interruption. If you look at my picture, my composite, and other objects in the picture, you'll see a big difference, not only just in the lighting, because you can actually see that in the lighting we still have warm tones, even though we really changed a lot of the levels as far as saturation and color balance and tone, exposure. All the things we changed still didn't give us the exact type of lighting and color that was taken or created in the original picture. So that's one thing that usually kind of gives it away, is something that I always look for. You hopefully can see that pretty well. Even this little picture here still has quite a bit of yellow and orange tones to it, whereas the gravestone next to it is a lot cooler. So another way I can show you this, just to kind of try to get the point across, is if you, actually let's just close this right here. So if you sample the colors, notice down here, this color is kind of a cool brownish grayish color. But if you sample from mine on the side here, you get a little bit warmer, lighter colors and tones. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you can see this well enough to see what I'm talking about. Now, as for the interruption, going back to that, I think I got off track a little bit there. There are a lot of sharp edges in this picture. The picture is not really super high resolution, but it was high enough, and also it's probably been compressed a little bit. But if you look at, we'll say like this stone right here, you'll notice that the edge of the pixels is pretty smooth. It's pretty much a straight line. You don't have a lot of distortion or anything like that. But if you go back up to our composite that we created, you'll see that there are lots and lots of blurry, uneven lines. Here, look how straight the pixels are on the headstone. Okay, and then look around the edges of my picture. Obviously, I didn't do everything in Photoshop that you can potentially do to make a picture seam together with another picture pretty even and clean, but at the same time, I think that no matter how good of a job you do, even if you do a really sloppy job or if you put a lot of time into it and do a very neat, precise job, I think that you're always going to have something in that image, and a lot of something actually, that tells that the image was manipulated in one way or another. Here's the big surprise. I have a very, very amazing ghost picture. Two, actually. Most people think that it's too good to be true. I'm going to show it to you.